first I would like to request our people to please greet Meenakshi ji. I would like to request Meenakshi ji. She's some other Meenakshi ji. She should come and greet Meenakshi ji. I would also like to request Mr. A.S. Raghunath to please come and greet Meenakshi ji. He's a very senior guy, senior guiding force for us. He lives in Gurgaon. He tweets cartoons. We all must be knowing him. Mr. A.S. Raghunath, he is one of the. नीति जी कृपया मीनाक्षी जी को बुके देकर एक बार ग्रीट करें.
Sumit, Abhinav, Rahul, and Miss Lobu, and so many. Ravi. Rebello. We are all rebellions. We've all rebelled and rebelled against the wrongs. So that is the character of internet. And I'm not naming so many of my young friends because we are constantly on Twitter or Facebook, or sometimes messages coming in, responding. And I was just telling, I said I manage my own account. It's not as if somebody else is managing. So under those situations, sometimes there are delays because I may not be responding immediately and may take my time, and sometimes days also. And many a times for a week I have been off all both mediums. Now we are here basically. What change has brought? I mean, what is the change that we are all looking at? People who are my age can relate to it, or people who are a little older than me can relate to the change. The change is that, one, we have a younger generation who is not only interested in the work they do, the academic field they are working in, or the livelihood platforms they are interested in, but they are also interested in building nation. And this is the new middle class. And this new middle class, because most of the bureaucracy, most of the power centers were earlier controlled by, at least I'm talking from Indian point of view, by Congress, because it was in power. So they controlled most of the power centers. Now power centers in what terms I'm talking about? You look at vice president of a particular place, you look at president, you look at chairpersons, you look at various commissions, you look at judicial appointments, you look at any appointment had to be made through the government, and government was run by who? By Congress. So end of the day, it was this government which was managing the institutions. And today, what we are looking at is a new middle class which on sheer grit and merit has made it. And has made it because of the privatization, because of the change that has happened, the economic change which has come. So this new middle class, which is excellent in academic superiority, which is hardworking, which can sacrifice a few things, and because they've lived the hard way. Answer is because they've lived the hard way. So one can live the hard way back again. Like if somebody looks at me and may say, oh, she's an elitist, come on, lawyer, making money, big deal. But they forget that this lawyer is somebody who has traveled in DTC buses in Delhi. This lawyer has worked her way up in life. Now this is the new middle class, which may have reached the upper middle class or whatever, but by sheer hard work and grit. So you carry the principles, you carry the Indian or I can say Hindu ethos, and you carry those ethos at the same time. You are a modern face. You're not somebody who's lacking in English speaking language, because that is how your modernity is determined. And I have a very funny incident to relate. I have a friend who works with, who's a journalist and works with one of the newspapers. And this girl comes from a background of a Madhya Pradesh girl, lived in Maharashtra, Bombay, wears a full sleeves salwar kameez, carries a chunni, not a smoker, not a person who parties, but one of the very, very good journalists working on ground in Delhi. A few very important issues with the Delhi government, along with many others environmental issues. Now, this girl is atypical of journalists because she doesn't have a short hair. She's not very, not dressed in a very westernized fashion. And best of all, she rides a motorcycle. So these are the images which a woman is trying to break in. I'm talking from a woman's point of view also. That here is a woman who can talk, who's very modern looking, but completely entrenched in Hindu ethos and culture, yet atypical. Not with the big bindi, not with Mangal Sutra, none of those symbols. None of those symbols. Now this middle class is wanting to control the system. This middle class is wanting the system to run on certain principles because they think those principles, those ethos have been taken out of the institutions which are running the country. That is the change we are seeing. And that is the desperation one is dealing with. You are dealing with the desperate younger generation who's full of energy, who has principles, who has seen money, who is not someone who's low on confidence, not someone who looks at, I'm purposely using that word, not, I won't say Britain, but I'll say England जाना है, और America जाना है, और New York जाके टैक्सी चलाएं तब भी चलेगा. अब वो generation नहीं है. This generation is not looking at all that. This generation wants home, wants families, wants a good life, is very concerned about environment, is very concerned about going to temple at the same time, and wants the system to respond and respond faster, respond immediately, because they have got the exposure of the other system, other countries where systems work. So you feel, why, if a system can work in any other country, not work in my country? My country, which is full of resources. My country, which has both human resource and material resource. And what has happened to my resources? British plundered, they took the things away, but what happened thereafter? So history is changed, and you're analyzing history from a different perspective. You're analyzing history from a perspective that British did this because they were imperial power, they were not nation builders, they were not here to do a favor, they were here to loot us. And they did precisely what suited them to run their own country. But what about my own countrymen? What about those people who are running the country? How can they loot the country and run the country still? So there is anger. That is the other change. There is anger, there is frustration. So again, you want the change. You want change to change. So you want the change to change the institutional lethargy, which is one seeing, which one is seeing, which one is going through. And under those circumstances, because all this is happening, these are the changes. And I think most youngsters have an image of what India should look like, what my family should look like, how society should run. And we've seen it, latest example, the example of what happened in Guwahati. And Guwahati showed what atrocious manner, even today, educated young men can behave. And it's a matter of shame for most people. And because it's a matter of shame, and because the whole country, young, old, man, woman, any age group, whichever political party one may come from, is opposing this social disorder. And this social disorder needs to be corrected. Everyone is coming around to that point of view. So that is the contribution of what? Social networking. And the result, create so much awareness that the institutions which are lying defunct need to work. So this awareness on Twitter and Facebook led the media to take up the issue, and they took it like a campaign, and the result is few people have been caught, few will be caught, and hopefully The NCW, which does not get up from their sleep, has gone there, has promised and has asked the government that please dispose of the matter in a speedy manner. So this is the outcome. So social outrage, spreading the message and getting the result. So when somebody says, oh, this is only 0.1% of people, but these 0.1% people are the opinion makers. These 0.1% people are the ones who run the establishments. These 0.1% people are the ones who are thinkers. So this 0.1% may be very low on a number scale, but a very, very important component of the social system. Now, if in a family there is one child who's educated in spite of all odds, and I'll purposely relate that, okay, maybe he's working as a mechanic to manage the computer systems, but is very active on Facebook and internet, keeps following it up. His father may be a vegetable vendor, mother may be a maid, and the guy must be helping his parents to run the home and educate his younger siblings. Now that boy, who may be a participant on Twitter and Facebook, is going to change the mindset of his family, of the people who may not be educated, who may not be around. So this 0.1% should not be underestimated. It's a very, very important sector you're dealing with. And that is where all of us, I include myself, need to be active. But then, can this activism alone change the country? Answer is no. Absolutely not. How is country made? Ideas, of course, very important. Because from ideas, anything can be done. But ideas alone is lazy, is being lazy completely. Because with ideas, you need the physical labor to carry out. I may imagine that I can build a castle, I can build a palace in my dreams. Very fine idea. But is that enough? I need the brick, I need the mortar, I need the money, I need the physical power to build it. I need to have the planning to purchase the land. So this is one resource which is very important. But along with this resource, we need to work on other resources, and which are physical resources. Be active on Facebook and Twitter, and the beauty of the medium is that whatever work you may be doing, you could still be on it. But that doesn't dilute your dharnas. That doesn't dilute your sitting on a hunger strike. That doesn't dilute your going there to the victim's home and actually helping her, actually meeting her. That doesn't dilute the fact, because I know so many people here who are not from Delhi, who I have never met. I don't even know what their ages are. Or maybe there's somebody who writes with Mr. X in situations. I don't know who that Mr. X is. But you relate because you're constantly on the interaction levels are far higher. At the same time, when there is a person, say what happened in Guwahati, if somebody was close by, or if I ever go to Guwahati, which I'm likely to go maybe end of the year, I'll put in that effort of locating that child and giving her a hug. And what that hug can mean, my n number of debates or messages or running a campaign on the Twitter or Facebook will not help. Now, do you think all the young boys who are just recent pass outs from schools have joined colleges, first year college, second year college, third year college, have voter IDs? They are 18 plus. That that awareness needs to be created. They all need to have their voter ID, and they all need to fly back, take a train, take a bus, take a cycle, take anything. Go back home and cast your vote. It's very important in democracy to vote the right person. Because if you don't vote for the right person, your institution of parliament, legislative assembly, municipal corporation, everything will be run by a person who is not cut out to do that job, who cannot perform, who's a non-performer. So I request all of you, all those boys who are active and girls who are very willing to work on certain social issues, to run this campaign. So that's the first task. But will this alone change the country? Very major tool. It's a internet is a major tool because it has created awareness. It has brought in certain changes. Voting also is a very important tool, but not alone. Right people have to contest elections also. Right people need to understand what RTI is. Right people need to make noise about corruption. Right people need to go to schools and colleges. Right people need to speak about freedom and liberty. Right people need to discuss what the justice system is all about. All these institutional changes have to happen. And all these institutional changes, and again, one factor which I think is very, very important. Materialism by itself is not a bad thing. You work hard, you earn your money, absolutely no problem. I think one needs to have that urge to do well in life, and that urge to do well in terms of material benefit, I'm absolutely fine with that. But urge to do well should not make a person greedy. Urge to do well at any cost should not be there. So what one is looking at, urge to do well, yes, but urge to be virtuous and correct also. Not at any cost. I don't want progress at any cost. I'm sorry, I don't want it. There are few things which are uncompromisable. These are few things which should not change at a very small personal level and a very large national level and still larger international polity. Few things cannot and few principles cannot be compromised on. So urge to do well needs to be balanced with urge to be virtuous. So only if you are running these two campaigns simultaneously, to be virtuous, to be correct, to be above board, and to do well, then only meritocracy will have any say in democracy. Otherwise, what is happening? Meritorious people reach the position of power, but to retain that power, to retain that position, they compromise on their virtues. What they may know, what they may understand, that this is virtuous or this is not virtuous, this is correct and this is incorrect, and yet follow the wrong path, because it's not about not being meritorious. You are meritorious. At the same time, maybe not virtuous. And ambition, and along with ambition plus discipline, can make a person compromise the principle. So it has to be a very fine-tuned balance, that you're ambitious, but to what extent? Ambitious only to the extent that I can achieve whatever I want to by my hard work, by my merit, not by compromising on my principles. Then it's better not to be ambitious in those circumstances, that I'll settle for so much because I know I'm not capable of doing that. Not capable, not in terms of hard work or merit, but not capable of compromising on my principles. And only then we can have a very positive society. So whenever we are looking at social activism and Hindu Twitterity, Hindu Facebook person, I think it's absolutely fine. Why should that be a problem? And somebody, I know of a journalist who used that word, but that's her problem. That's her problem. And I think by giving importance to such statements, we are making somebody more important than one is. Maybe I would want to enter into an argument with such person, because I think if logically few subjects can be dealt with, a lot of prejudice can be ended. A lot of prejudice. Sometimes people have prejudice not because they know you, but they assume you're like this, which you're not. You may be a perfectly fine, shy, reserved kind of a person, but somebody may look at you in a television debate and may say, oh God. So assumptions, presumptions about somebody, making a wrong judgment is a possibility. The best way to end that is by logical argument. And by logical argument, not emotional argument, logical argument. And I'm emphasizing again, logical, not emotional. Because half the time I feel this side of the spectrum is very emotional. Very, very emotional. So I think to have the correct language skills, again to be hardworking by reading, by rereading the phrases, by using the correct grammar, by being right, you are conveying an image about yourself. A very confident image. A Hindu, Twitterity, Hindu Facebook person, I think it's absolutely fine. Why should that be a problem? And somebody, I know of a journalist who used that word, but that's her problem. That's her problem. And I think by giving importance to such statements, we are making somebody more important than one is. Maybe I would want to enter into an argument with such person, because I think if logically few subjects can be dealt with, a lot of prejudice can be ended. A lot of prejudice. Sometimes people have prejudice not because they know you, but they assume you're like this, which you're not. You may be a perfectly fine, shy, reserved kind of a person, but somebody may look at you in a television debate and may say, oh God. So assumptions, presumptions about somebody, making a wrong judgment is a possibility. The best way to end that is by logical argument. And by logical argument, not emotional argument, logical argument. And I'm emphasizing again, logical, not emotional. Because half the time I feel this side of the spectrum is very emotional. Very, very emotional. So I think to have the correct language skills, again to be hardworking by reading, by rereading the phrases, by using the correct grammar, by being right, you are conveying an image about yourself. A very confident image. And that image is very, very important, because half the battle is won once you give a very strong image to somebody. As somebody who's dealing with you should know at which footing the person has to deal with you. You're not some riffraff off the street. These are a few things which, according to me, every one of us should take care on the net, because I've seen many people get abusive. And I have faced it. One thing, if any of us, because I think most of us are linked to each other somewhere or the other. If any of us sees that somebody is being denigrated unnecessarily, we must respond. So that the person who's doing this understands he cannot or she cannot do it. There will be a very quick and smart response. So we must help each other. That's one thing. The second thing is reporting, which I have done a couple of times. In fact, I was discussing this with Sumit. What happened was that somebody on Twitter used foul language constantly. Ignored. But beyond a point, it's like I get into a different mode. So that was the time I got into a different mode. So I sent a very nasty response because I didn't want all this to go unrebutted. And if I can share that tweet with you, shit, and things like that, bad words all across. So I said, you know, I'm nobody to teach you or tell you that you need to improve your logic along with your academic skills. I'm no one to teach you that, because even if I have to tell you, you won't listen to me. But this is my opinion. When the bowel movement becomes the language, then such comment is fit for toilet and not for Twitter. And then I reported the person for indulging in abusive behavior. Because the message has to go. You can't get abusive. You may not agree with me. You don't have to agree. This is democracy. You have a right to counter me. I have a right to counter you. But logically, correctly, on facts and figures. You can't just start abusing somebody. So don't abuse, but if anybody is indulging in incorrect behavior thereafter, report that person. Block that person, report that person. Easy route is blocking. Difficult route is reporting, which as a trained lawyer, I used it. I said the message should go. Now nobody dare do this because there's always a group which does this kind of a thing. So if I report one, the 10 will stay off. That this lady is not to be messed with. So those are certain techniques of, survival. These are survival technique of the social media. So I thought I'll share the survival technique with you. The other point which I was talking was basically really not much, except I'll say that a voter ID is something which I think is very, very important for us. And whichever medium we may use, educated class, uneducated class, everyone needs to, all the staff around help. In your offices also you'll have people who are lower in the ladder. Talk to them, find out, get everyone a voter ID. Because voter ID is very, very important. That's one change which this country needs to face. All the wrong governments have been coming in because the right people never vote. They are too lazy. They want the AC comfort. And I'll agree with Rahul to that extent, that my voter, our voter, is the AC class. I can't send an AC car to pick that person up. And that person needs breakfast at 11 o'clock in the morning on a chutti day, will not reach the polling station. How do you expect the change then? I mean, it's to be fought like a jihad. This is the democratic jihad. Voting is a democratic jihad. Everyone needs to correct the system. And only this can correct the social disorder, by voting. People don't vote. And I would want all of you to repeatedly run this kind of campaign, not just before the election. Election is far, 2013, 2014 is what one is looking at. Maybe 12, a few elections. So, but we need to tell everyone that please, please, all your children above the age of 18, 19, 20 need to have a voter's ID. And on the voting day, please don't have a late breakfast. Vote and come back or do whatever you have to. You have a whole day free. But to vote earlier you go, the better it is. You'll find the polling booths khali. And all the internet activists also need to be sitting at the polling stations, working, correcting that system too, because there's so much of wrong things happening there. So since you guys are very familiar with the technology, I've started using that technology now with my phone. But if somebody, people come and break the lines and even campaign at the time of polling, which is not permitted. And those are few guidelines which people should know. no liquor is to be served for vote. And yet liquor gets served, yet money gets to be spent. But since all of you are aware of certain rules, regulations, you can immediately take that picture, put it on the net, that this polling booth, this is happening. By the time the police reaches, the cars have disappeared, the trucks have gone full of liquor, and one is fighting and nobody is picking up the phone. And being a lawyer in charge of certain area where I have to manage the elections, so you're constantly telling, like Delhi MCD elections for that matter, you're constantly reporting the matter. So, but it's easier. You take a picture. If somebody happens to be on the spot, watching all this happening, take the picture, put it on the Twitter and Facebook, and send it to the Election Commissioner's site. Just send it. Say, I am a concerned citizen, and this is what I think is incorrect, inappropriate. Take action. Using government officers on poll duty, again another offense. On poll duty in the sense, as a person working for me. For example, somebody like me starts contesting election, and there's someone who works in a bank, is a teacher, is a principal, engineering college person, one of those sarkari babus, and I say, acha, you go in this ilaka, register leke jao, and parchi baat ke aa jao on my name with my party symbol. You can't do that. You can't do that. As a government servant, you can't be working for party A or party B. Now, if somebody does that, immediately click a picture, put it on the Twitter and Facebook, and especially to the sites of the media. At one go, all of them should get those pictures, and then run it like a campaign. Now, this is how elections are fought. And nobody is doing anything. Election Commissioner has not taken any action. Police has not done anything. So they, again, breakdown of institution, lethargy of the institution gets activated by use of Twitter and Facebook. But that doesn't give you the authority not to participate in election. That means you can only capture all this once you're there on the ground. And that is where internet activism needs to be converted into social activism. Nothing can replace a good dharna. Serious. I'm very serious. Nothing can replace a good bhashan. Because still people connect to you. No matter what beautiful lines you write and they get printed on the net, makes no sense. The connectivity with the audience, connectivity with the people is what is important. Touching somebody's hand is what is important. Somebody who's sick, somebody who's not well. So that physical proximity to our surroundings for betterment of the system, for change of the system, is very, very important. Very important. For example, in Delhi, there was a Clean Yamuna campaign. And Yamuna has been reduced into virtually a drain. And it happens to be an artery of Ganges. So something which is so deep in our psyche, which is so close to our soul, and yet being ill-treated in this manner. And if in this campaign you run a campaign on the net, awareness campaign, which will make a change. For example, not using plastic bags, run a campaign, but ultimately you're helping the system. You're helping the Yamuna, you're cleaning Yamuna, because all those poly bags are going to go to the dumping grounds, not to the landfills, but go back to Yamuna, and few fish will die, other aquatic life will die, and we'll be bereft of all the marine life. As it is, we don't have much of it. So a small campaign can build into a nation's campaign towards environmental friendly policies, sustainable development, population control. And that's a very, very major issue for the whole country. These are the issues which are irrespective of the political lineage one has. These are the issues which determine what we are going to be as a nation. Now, there are few religious sects who don't think about sustainable development. Increasing population could be one part of it. And there could be people who are doing it out of sheer illiteracy. There are people who don't know better. There are some who are doing it because they want farm labor. So maybe it's going to be 0.1% of the people who are going to be affected by it because it's on internet, it's on Facebook, and those people who are on internet and Facebook anyways will not have more than 2 kids. They will not. But the question is, what about the ones who are not on the internet and Facebook and they will never get to be there? With this kind of population explosion and demarcation of resources, they will never get to be there. Let's work on them. That if you want your son to be a software engineer, which I think a lot of people want. A lot of people want that. But you can't get there because your resources are limited. You can't put your kid in a good school. You can't train the child's brain. You can't give nourishment, nutrition, if you have 10 children. So maybe 0.1% is what one is looking at, the what do we call it, captive area. But beyond that 0.1%, if we want to increase our captivity, run it like a campaign through that 0.1%. That 0.1% needs to come on the streets to run this campaign. But activate that 0.1% on these issues so much that they get on the streets to do the work. And similarly, Ganges campaign. There's going to be another social issue. Environmental issue. You think we as a country will survive? Where is the water? Where is the water? We are not having check dams. We are not having small projects. We are having sanitation project like Sonia Vihar, which is lying as a dead issue, and there is not adequate water to bring this sanitation, bring the muck to that place. So transportation itself, you are wasting so much of water. Instead of this, either dismantle it into smaller project, make 4, 5, 7 projects all across Delhi, that the transportation of the sewage is not an issue. Because how are you going to waste gallons and gallons of water into sewage transport? Will anyone think on those lines? It's all about sustainable development as well. And that can happen only when we run the campaign on the internet and bring it on the streets. Make it on the streets. And these are causes which are affecting the country. It's not political. It's not party A, party B. Party A, party B will come subsequently. It's the country. It's my country, it's your country, it's our country. One nation, indivisible. And which needs to come together to formalize the systems in place and get them to work towards working and functioning with the correct ethos which are determined by our constitution. The governance has to run by the polity which is determined, and our predetermined polity is our constitution. So let's run those campaigns. I don't remember, there was one person who met me in Bombay, and they were saying, ma'am, why are you not on Twitter, etc., etc. That's 2011. I said, okay, I'll start off 2011, and I'll went on. And then they were discussing one article every day of the Constitution. One article per day. Which I think is another very, very fine idea. Maybe on Facebook one could do that. Not possible on Twitter because 140 words you can't really write much. But what one can do is, I stand corrected, sir, 140 characters and not words. What one can do though, like everyone can think that today's day is going to be of Article 1. So wherever you are, search Google, book, Constitution's copy, whatever, read Article 1 on that day and discuss it. What you think? Something like that. I think we need to work around, and this will also, this is like a symbol. Constitution is like a symbol of who we are, what our ethos are, what we stand for, how aware we are, and what kind of nation, an idea again, what sort of nation are we looking at? What country? And so Article 1 will say what our country is. Article 2. So let's discuss that. Everyone reads same article on one day. Or maybe once a week. I don't know how it can work. Maybe every Sunday. Maybe every Saturday. Just read that article. I mean, somebody needs to make an announcement at 12 or 10 or whatever, that tomorrow it's going to be Article 1. Tomorrow is going to be Article whatever. Like that. So go on. Go on. And that will be a wonderful exercise. Really wonderful exercise. So you're not supposed to publish the article because everyone seems to be knowing the article, or it's available on the net wherever, Google, etc., etc. But one is supposed to read. It's like self-study and discuss what you think, or what confusion do you have, or do you understand it right or not, and somebody can answer that. That yes, according to my understanding, this is what it is, and somebody may correct, no, it's not this, it's this. So we get to converse on that a very sound subject, which I think, again, as a nation, as a country, we all need to know how countries to be run, what our governance has to be, like that. I think with these words, I'll say thank you very much. And any questions you have, interaction, I'm open to that.
I want to, people get to know about Vajpayee ji, because we ruled only 5 years. So people need to know what Vajpayee ji did in 5 years. We don't get to see much of, he started Golden Quadrilateral, he started river linking and all that.
River linking is, you see, again, I am a person of logic, and I feel any project needs to be discussed, because you're dealing with environmental issue. You're dealing with many different opinions on such subjects. River linking in utopian society may sound very correct, but we are a very large country, and we have diversification of animals, we have diversification of humans, and we have diversification of all kinds. If there is, I got to know something like some place high up in the mountains where the bottom is that of gypsum. So water cannot percolate, and this was a desert. And by growing certain things, you are having flash floods there, because the environment does not permit a few things which you have done. And no, I'm talking about something else. These projects may be our projects, but anything which is ours still can be questioned. And anything which needs to be made should be handled logically, and that's where I feel there should be open discussion. You are free to say river linking, this benefit will happen. And maybe I will turn to your side, yes, you're right, these are the things we are going to have by river linking, and river linking should happen. And these are the commercial projects, these are the benefits. But then you have to be open to my understanding that when you are transporting, basically river linking means what? You are transporting water. With this kind of heat, you think the gallons of water which you are transporting will get transported. There's so much of, and then the areas, again, climate issues, which should not get rain will get rain, where rain should happen will not happen. All kinds of things. So environmentalists, physicists, geologists, everyone has to sit down and think and come to a point.
Supreme Court allowed this.
It doesn't make it right. Right? So we can still have a debate. We can still have a healthy debate. And I'm not opposing it. Please understand that. All I'm saying is on any project or anything, there should be open discussions. and convert the other person to your point of view. Because if either, and I'm very frank about it, either I get converted to your point of view or you get converted to my point of view. And which should be the best thing. I think we can wind it up.
On the way the president today is being selected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And who our president is? Who is going to be our president? Why not? I can tell you something which is I'm sure in this audience has not heard, because this is a younger audience. But people who, because I myself was not very old at a time when Shah Commission happened, which was emergency issues. And this president nominee is somebody who was indicted in that Shah Commission. And they destroyed that commission's entire booklets. And in any polity in the world, a person like that who's indicted of such wrongs could not have lived in the political system for such a long time and allowed to get away. It happened because there was no social media at that time. And that is where I think social media is so important. So important to send the message which is blocked by everyone, which is getting blocked because there are usurpers of power. There are entrenched interests, so they will block. They will, I mean, we've all seen Abhishek Manu Singhvi's CD was not floated anywhere on any channel. And a wrong order was quoted as the order of the day, which was not binding on anybody. It was binding on only on those 4 people who were parties to the case. And yet, no channel showed the spine to float it. At the same time, there came the social media you can't control. You just can't control. And when that became viral, it became important for the media channels to run stories, small stories, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour, discussions on them. Otherwise, they would have still blocked it. So I think when there are entrenched interests which are controlling, and that's where I was saying the institutions were controlled, are controlled, and it is this particular class which now wants to control those systems, and that is the change we are seeing. And because of this change, I wish Shah Commission report at that time could have been placed on internet. And everyone should have been able to read what Congress did. Everyone when talks about communalism, this, that, and that kind of thing, you should know what happened in Delhi, Turkman Gate, what happened in Hashimpura. Everyone needs to know. And you call something which happened in 2002 as communal. And 2002, where out of 25 districts, only 7 districts of Gujarat got affected. And 1200, which is a wrong figure actually. I have also, by the impression which media creates, even a person like me has got affected. It's actually 1192 or 93. The correct figure have died in Gujarat, which is bad. No, nobody should die in this nation. But when outrage is of that immense amount, and out of that outrage, more than 35% people were Hindus. And 9% is Gujarat's Muslim population. Who killed these 35%? Even at a time of riots, when there's so much of outrage, it was a law and order breakdown situation. And small number of police can never control. Never control. Army came in within 1.5 days, it got controlled. And fax was sent to the Defense Ministry right on that day. 5 o'clock, the fax has been sent. But nobody will run these stories. Nobody will run these stories. I think Twitter, Facebook, these stories should be run. And the man who was doing Namaste, you remember? The fellow who was crying, Kutubuddin Ansari. Now, Kutubuddin Ansari's house was burned. And it was a bad thing to happen to anybody. And then my heart goes out to any Indian who suffers during such situations. At the same time, police came in and police saved him. He was at that time thanking the cops. And which has been portrayed as a right picture. Not showing that police helped him. This is how you twist. Some 5,000 odd children from a madrasa were saved in a place which was burning. 5,000. Even the other lady, Zahira Sheikh's matter has been blown out of proportion. Gulbarga society, 1,500 people were saved from that same place. Nobody talked. I mean, few got murdered. Yes, few did. I'm not justifying that. I will never justify anybody's death. But bring the correct picture. Say these were riots, wrong things happened. Everyone should take a lesson that don't do the wrong, don't commit the wrong, you will not ever have that kind of response. For one wrong to happen in, pendulum and laws of motion, whenever it will peak to one extreme, it will peak to the other extreme also. And then the balance will come. And after 2002, there has been not a single riot in Gujarat. And whereas Gujarat was one state where every year there were riots, every year. 1947 till 2002.